5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're now tuned into the 411 podcast and reading Between the Wines, powered by the Black Diamond Consultations Network. More than a podcast, this is a sanctuary for self-discovery, healing, and personal growth. Here, we explore what it means to live debt-free, not just financially, but spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Every episode is part of a journey across our weekly mentorship series: Spiritual Sundays, Mental Mondays, Transformational Tuesdays, Wind Down Wednesdays, Coaching Sessions Thursdays, and Financial Fridays. Each day holds space for wisdom, clarity, and real conversation. So grab your journal, pour your glass, and prepare to go beyond the surface. Because here, we don't just talk, we transform. And now, here's your guide through it all: entrepreneur, mentor, and founder of Black Diamond Consultations, Laren Gaines.
What's going on? What's going on? Welcome on in. Welcome to the 411 podcast. This is episode 2, Mental Monday. Thank you all so much for coming in. Before we go ahead and get this thing started, I have to give a very special thank you to my executive producer. I want to thank God for giving me another opportunity to come out here and give you the 411 podcast. Here we are. Disc 6. Wow, 6 years into this game, and I have to say I'm very thankful. And I most certainly could not do any of this, and I most certainly cannot stand here and do everything that I'm doing without each and every one of you out there supporting me. Thank you so much to the people who DM me, text me, send me messages. Thank you so much. So, as we focus on the mental aspect tonight of debt-free living, I want you to remember that your thoughts have a balance too. Track 2, your thoughts have a balance too. And it is so important. And this was a true game changer for me, an absolute game changer once I realized that my thoughts had a balance. They have a balance. And when they were out of control, when my thoughts were out of control, I was out of control. So let's get right on into this. Song of the day: Speak Over Yourself. And this is from Sheri Jones-Moffett, released in 2009 off of her album Renewed. Now, when I first heard this, I was introduced to this through Donald Lawrence and the Tri-City Singers. And I was in such a dysfunctional place. That's a great word to say. I was in such a dysfunctional place in my life that I didn't understand what was happening with this song. And it really didn't start to click until 5 years later. It's something else. Um, but yeah, this song is not new. It was released in 2009. And when I was introduced to it, it was probably around 2013, 14. So we're even talking even longer than that. And wow, all these years later, just finally, kicked in. You know, I said 5 years, but we do the math. It's probably 6 or 7 years later that it actually finally kicked in. And thoughts, your thoughts have power, man. Your thoughts really have power. Your words have power. And I'm going to pull this scripture up because I want to make sure that I do this right. And that's what this season is about. I'm learning and growing with each and every one of you during this process, and this isn't scripted. So I just want to let y'all know this isn't scripted. You know, right at the moment, right up to the moment, you know, there will be trials and errors during this whole process. This whole podcasting thing has been, you know, just that. So we here. Proverbs 18:21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof. I put this in my financial wellness group, and I let them know that What we speak over our life, what we speak over our finances, our health, relationships, our jobs, just everything in general. It is so important to be so careful about what you speak over yourself. You can either bless your situation or you can curse your situation just by the words that come out of your own mouth. And like I said before, I was in such a dysfunctional space. No wonder that, my relationships were in turmoil. No wonder that my finances were not where they needed to be. No wonder why things started to crumble in the workplace. It was just a mess all over because I wasn't paying attention to the words that I was speaking out of my mouth. And the reason why I'm here right now, doing what I'm doing right now, is because of the words that I started to speak out of my mouth. And so important. We're going to get into this tonight, but it is so important. See, I believe in the four pillars when it comes to debt free living. And it first starts in the spiritual realm. You have to understand and know who you are. Before, back in the day, I didn't know who I was. And I signed up and I agreed and I basically did everything that I wasn't supposed to and became very unhappy and very miserable. And that also affected my mental as well. And I was showing up very disrespectfully in the world. I'm just keeping it real. Like I said before, the Black Diamond community, when I minister to you, I minister to myself. My mess became my message. And then, of course, the finances weren't on point. It is so important. Be very careful with the things that you speak over your life because it starts in the spiritual realm. I'm gonna back this thing up. And again, I'm not an expert. You have to do your own due diligence, but it starts in the spiritual realm and then it shows up in the physical. It starts in the mind first, what we think, and then it shows up in the physical. It shows up and it becomes reality. What you think becomes reality. Tonight, I'm going to speak about what is so important during this time of year after we come out of the holidays is building an emergency fund. Financial anxiety, financial avoidance, and the mental safety net that most people never build. It's an emergency fund, and it can come from so many different aspects. So tonight, we're going to help Ms. Danielle from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And Danielle says, Laren, my mind never rests when it comes to money. I can be sitting on a couch watching something mindless and my chest tightens out of nowhere. I start running numbers in my head, whether it's rent, utilities, groceries. What happens if my car breaks down again? I don't have an emergency fund, not a real one. And I told myself my credit card is my emergency fund. And I know that sounds crazy when I write about it. I grew up watching my mom panic every time something unexpected happened. A flat tire meant tears. A doctor bill meant borrowed money and silence. I promised myself I'd never live like that again. But here I am, same stress, different income. I avoid my savings account because it reminds me of how far behind I feel. I'll start saving, then something small happens and I drain it. Then I beat myself up for weeks and stop trying altogether. People keep telling me to stay positive about money. The advice makes me angry. I don't need positivity, I need peace. I want to sleep without my mind racing through the worst case scenarios. I want to stop living like everything is about to fall apart. How do you build how do you build financially safety when your mind is always preparing for disaster? Danielle. Now listen, as I go through this, everyone, I want to remind you that I am not a financial advisor. I am not a financial planner. I am a financial coach. And I strongly urge you all to do your own due diligence and your own research when it comes to, the information that you get when it comes to your finances, when it comes to your health, when it comes to your mental health. Do your own due diligence, do your own research. I'm going to take it to the top. You say your mind never rests when it comes to money. Through my experience, when my mind used to never rest when it came to money, was because the lack thereof. And the lack thereof was due to the choices that I decided to make. I want you all to think about where you are in your financial journey right now. Think about where you are in your financial journey. Some of us are in a great position, some of us are in a not so great position. But for those of you who are in a not so great position, if you can think back, I want you to think back when it was good. I want you to think back, what were you doing when it was good? How did you feel when everything was good? Think about that. And that's probably a place that you want to be at right now. But the question that I submit to each and every one of you is, what decision, what actions caused it to turn? Because I spoke earlier about how I was in such a dysfunctional place. There were things that I did that caused that. Now, when I was going through the dysfunction, when I was going through the drama, when I was going through the nonsense, I couldn't think clearly because I had so much stuff going on. But after I have been restored and I got out, I understand. Sometimes you just got to get good and sick and tired of yourself. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. You have to hit that rock bottom core where you're like, absolutely not, I'm not doing this again. So I sometimes it will sting hard enough for you to understand and know, wow, that's it. That's it right there. I'm not going to do that again. Sometimes you listen, some of us might be hard headed and we might need to go through some things. And that's one thing that I've learned coming out of 25, heading into, 26 where we're at now is that I can't get upset if somebody does not see things the way that I see it. Everybody has to go through their own trials, everybody has to go through their own struggles, everybody has to come out on the other end at their own time frame, not necessarily mine. Now I'm gonna get back to this. I can be sitting on a couch watching something mindless and my chest tightens out of nowhere. I know exactly where you're coming from when it comes to that. Your issue was over finances. My issue used to be over finances and relationship issues and just drumming up and coming up with all types of scenarios that never even occurred. And that was a lack of faith because here I was focusing on fear, doubt, anxiety, everything, thinking of the worst case scenario, and it never even showed up in the world. It wasn't there yet. But because I continued to focus on that, and when my mind decided to play games and play tricks like, the enemy knows how to do, I continued to feed it. I continued to water those bad seeds, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger to where it just overtook my situation. It overtook, where I was at that moment. That's why you have to be very careful about the things that are running through your mind. You have to speak over yourself and you have to say, absolutely not. When those bad thoughts come up, you don't live here anymore. You got to go. Not entertain it, not invite the enemy in, not play those same records over and over again. Just dismiss it and move on immediately. Easier said than done, I understand, but it's a process. Then you say you go on to start running numbers in your head, rent, utilities, groceries, and what happens if your car breaks down. I have been there before, and it's no good to be in that situation. Always thinking of the worst situation. And because I thought of the worst situation, it robbed my peace and my joy in a moment. I was too far in the future thinking of something negative that never happened and letting fear and anxiety control and dictate how I made moves in the world. And you had a great point here. You said, I don't have an emergency fund. not a real one. I told myself my credit card is an emergency fund, and I know that sounds crazy when I write it out. The stress, the anxiety, mind racing over rent, bills, utilities, car breaking down, all of that. The reason why that happened is because of this root cause issue right here is not having an emergency fund, not having enough money in the bank. So sometimes when things show up and your mind starts to race, or you might have anxiety or these bad thoughts, not to sound, weird or anything about it, but sometimes, and I want to twist things around. I know what energy I've been putting out there in the beginning of this podcast, but if that's happening, let that be a reason for you to change some things. Again, I was so hard headed. I was so stubborn. When I had those things, that just became normal. You get stuck in your own way. You get in your own way. Sometimes we have to get out of our own way. And it became normal. And now when I think about it today, after coming out on the other end, absolutely not. I'm not putting up with that. I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. I don't want to feel like that again. Once you become debt free, you don't want to go back. You have to be good and sick and tired of yourself to where you're cutting up all of the credit cards, you're stopping the payday loans, you're stop robbing Peter to pay Paul. You're just not doing it no more. You don't want to go back. Now you told yourself you don't have a real emergency fund, you have a credit card. This is the worst case scenario right here, is to use your credit card and go right back into debt. You're already in debt and now you're telling yourself that your credit card is an emergency fund, and that's going to put you into even more debt. This is a problem. And a lot of people don't see this. And again, I can't feel a certain way. I can't act a certain way when I see people who operate like this. I'm just being honest. As a financial coach, this was one of the biggest lessons for me. People are not going to see things the way that I see it. Number one, not everybody's going to see it. God will give you certain gifts, certain tools to put in your bag that you can use to help navigate through this thing called life. And when you have these special gifts and these special, that's what it is. When you have these special gifts, when God gives it to you, what God meant for you is for you, not for everybody else. Now you can use those gifts and tools to help other people and to uplift and encourage people. And that's exactly what I'm here to do. And to empower the individuals who want to get to the next level, who want to be break free from debt, and who want to live and understand and learn about this debt-free living. That's what I'm here for. And in the beginning, it was a little interesting because I took things personal, and I used to feel a certain way when people didn't see things or do things the way that I would do it. And there was no coincidence that my work life was a situation because I was so hard on people, wanting them to do it exactly the way that I did it. Same thing in my relationships and all of those things. So this has been a full life learn lesson and a journey for me. And I am exactly where I need to be right here. But let's continue this thing here, because this is how I do. Sometimes I'm all over the place, but we're gonna get into some generational conversations here, which is so important. I grew up watching my mom panic every time something unexpected happened. A flat tire meant tears, a doctor bill meant borrowed money and silence. And I promised myself I never lived like that. But here I am, same stress, but different income. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't hear anything from this podcast, but I need you to hear this here right now, here. I need you to hear this right now, this here today. The mental aspect when it comes to debt free living, this is so important too. Spiritual, number one, you have to understand and know who you are, and you have to know whose you are. So that's number one. But after you work on that and you get yourself into a good position. You have to focus on the mental aspect of it, because our parents, our grandparents, what we were brought up in, what we were exposed to from the time we were in the womb until 7 years old, are the most important times of our lives, because it impacts and it shapes of who we will become as an adult. And what we've learned about money, what we grew up with, what we experienced in a household as a child, directly impacts who you will become as an adult. However, you have the ability to change and reprogram your mind to say, absolutely not. What my parents went through, I don't have to do that. What my grandparents went through, I don't have to do that. What my uncle, auntie, cousins, brothers, sisters, whoever, I do not have to participate in that. But you have to make that decision. Easier said than done. If you look at your parents' lives, if you look at your grandparents, you look at your ancestors, you go back as far as you want to go back, there most likely is a common theme. This is what it is when it comes to generational curses. It will continue to pass along to generation to generation to generation. And in most cases, depending on what it is, most likely will get worse as each generation continues, until it's so bad that an entire generation gets wiped out. So if you grew up watching your mom panic every time and you see that you're going through this, for those of you out there listening, sometimes we go through these things and we don't even understand why. We don't know why we do some of the things we do, because it's been so embedded in us from a child. You will subconsciously pick up and start doing things that your parents do, your grandparents did, and you don't even know why you're doing some of the things. But once you recognize it, that does not mean that you have to continue on this path and on this journey. One thing that frustrates me most, and I just have to speak on it, is when people say, oh, this is just tradition. This is just what we've done. This is how it's always been. You know what I have to say to that? Absolutely not. Now, that's how it's always been for you, but it is not going to always be like that for me. Absolutely not. Because like I said, when you get good and sick and tired of yourself, you get good and sick and tired of paying the banks, you get good and sick and tired of paying all of this extra interest and car loans and credit card interest and late fees, and absolutely not. I'm not doing it today. Pay a little bit here and then pay the other half when you get paid next week. Let me borrow this here, and then when I get paid, no, I'm not doing it today. Sorry. And I know that there are so many people who are comfortable with that. But I have to tell you I'll have to tell, and I'll tell anybody this, that don't have anything to do with me, but that has everything to do with you. When it comes to your finances, when it comes to your mental health, it has nothing to do with all of the people around you, but it has everything to do with you. Now, they might have contribute to where you are. They might have played a little bit of role in it. But you have the ultimate say. You make the ultimate decision. And like I said in the beginning, at the top of the show, your thoughts have a balance too. It starts with how you think and how you feel about yourself. Now, you said I avoid my savings account because it reminds me of how far behind I feel. Now, remember what I said about when you have these feelings, when these feelings show up, when you feel a certain way and you know it's not right. Now, here's the problem. When you feel a certain way and you know it's not right, but yet we continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, waking up the next day, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the definition of insanity. Now, I'm thankful that I'm in my right mind today, because God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. I'm going to say that again. God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And I know that I have a sound mind, and I know that I'm not out of my mind, and I know that I'm not insane. But listen, that doesn't mean that I haven't been there before. And I'm thankful that I have my right mind today, because I used to get up every single day doing the same exact thing over and over and over again, entertaining the same people over and over and over again, going to the same places that used to irritate me and drive me crazy, and to show up and do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And nobody couldn't tell me that wasn't insane, because I was. But I get it today. And I realize today that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That ain't me. I'm not signing up for that. Now, when these feelings come up, you have to do something about it. You feel a certain way because we shouldn't be doing these things. Maybe that's God's way of showing you and telling you absolutely not. Do something a little different. Because He might let a lot of hell and drama show up in your life to teach you a lesson, because maybe you asked for it. Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. I know I've been there before. And here's the thing. You said you'll start saving, and then something small happens and you drain it. Then you beat yourself up for weeks, and then you stop trying altogether. And then people tell you maybe you should get back on it. Maybe, all over again. And then you just repeat the same process over and over again. Insanity. Don't be insane today. It's a choice. It is an absolute choice. And a lot of that, there's a lot going on there. You avoid savings because it reminds you of how far you're behind. You start saving, then something small happens, you drain it, you beat yourself up again. You start to tell people about what's going on, which is an issue in itself. You got to tell the right people. It sounds like some people were giving you some good advice by telling you to stay positive about money, but then you said the advice makes you angry, and you don't need positivity, you need peace. That's a problem. You do need positivity. You need people who are going to encourage you, uplift you, and get you on the right track. And yes, you need peace too. But in order to get peace, you are going to have to start doing something different when it comes to how you're saving and maneuvering and making moves when it comes to your money. You want financial peace, you're going to have to do things that supports financial peace. You're going to have to hang around people that supports financial peace. I would submit to you, what does your circle look like? Because if you are going through these things, you're mimicking, you are modeling, you are mirroring from somebody, from somewhere. Think back. Maybe it has to stem with, what was going through with your childhood, what you've been taught when it comes to money, how you've been taught to spend money, how you've been taught to, you know, interact with money. When you're dealing with money, money is a relationship. You have to have a good, positive relationship with money, just like you have to have a good, positive relationship when it comes to people. You have to treat it the same exact way. So, my question to you is, you might need to go back. In order for you to break through, you might need to go back. You might need to revisit. And who's around you? You are an average, only an average of the five closest people that you surround yourself with, that you entertain, interact with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. You are an average of the five closest people to you. So I feel that we might need to start to go back and look at your circle as well. You want to sleep without your mind racing through the worst case scenarios. You want to stop living like everything is about to fall apart. This is where I talked in the beginning about speak over yourself. You have to have faith. It sounds like you have more fear than you have faith. A lot of these things did not show up. You're thinking about a worst case scenario. Your mind is racing about a worst case scenario. You can't sleep because you're too busy focusing on a worst case scenario. It has not shown up in the physical realm. However, if you continue to think and drum up and focus on and put attention to these things, listen, I'm not an expert, but from what I know, from real life experiences, because I've been there. I don't know who I'm speaking to. I'm just speaking from real life experiences. These things will eventually show up in your show up in your physical world. I used to always think about the worst case scenario. Oh, this happened, this person cheated, this happened, that didn't happen. All over. Don't have money for this. Can't do this. This is gonna break down. That's gonna happen. This next, the other. Used to focus on all of the negative. And sure enough, everything started to fall apart and everything started to play out just exactly how I used to drum up and think up things in my mind. And your question is, how do you build financial safety when your mind is always preparing for disaster? You can't. I don't believe that you can. I don't believe that you can build a financial safety net when your mind is always preparing for disaster. Yes, you have to be very cautious because life can happen. Anything can happen. Nobody's promised tomorrow. It's so ridiculous, but things happen. So you have to prepare. But you don't focus on a negative, because if you focus on negative, if you focus on lack, you're going to continue to get more of that. You want to focus on positive, like you said before, you don't need positivity. Yes, you most certainly do. You need all of it. Focus on that. That will continue to show up in your world. I'm just a little thrown back by that in itself. You're saying that you don't need positivity. Ugh, that right there is something else, man. So, from the outside looking in, only thing I could do is speak from real life experiences. This calls for a reset. You have to understand and know who you are when it comes to the spiritual realm, and everything starts with self. You're going to have to look in that mirror and make some decisions and ask yourself, do you want to continue to live the life of insanity? Or do you want to focus more on understanding and knowing who God is, and understanding and knowing that he doesn't give us a spirit of fear? So when it comes to fear, when it comes to doubt, when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to stress, when it comes to anything other than LOVE, please know and understand that that is not from him. That is from the enemy. And when you understand and know that that is from the enemy, the question that I would have to ask, why would you sign up for it? Because when I understood and know that God does not give us a spirit of fear, oh, you mean to tell me that fear, anxiety, doubt, stress, all of those other things that I just named are from the enemy? That's all I needed to know. Thank you so much. I'm not signing up for that. I understand and I know who my father is, and I know who I am. And I don't sign up for that type of nonsense. I don't sign up for that thought process. I don't sign up for that path. Absolutely not. Like the song of the day, speak over yourself. You have to have more faith than you have fear. Your faith has to overpower fear to kick fear out and say, absolutely not. I'm not afraid. What am I afraid of? Sure, absolutely not. Let's not even get into that when it comes to fear, especially when it comes to fearing man, another individual. You mean to tell me you've given me power? You've given me the spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind? You know how powerful power is? Thank you so much. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. So I say a total reset. But again, this six vitality is so important because it has a lot to do with strength. It has a lot to do with courage. It has a lot to do with stepping out on faith, building up your war chest, preparing for battle, which the mental is so important. Understanding and knowing who you are, knowing that we got to go to war. We got to fight for what's ours, and maintain all of this energy, strength, courage, wisdom. This is important and should not be taken lightly at all. But you have to make that choice. Easier said than done. This is exactly why I'm here doing exactly what I'm doing. When I minister to you, I minister to myself. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect. I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't struggle with things too. Even here in 2026, I still was like, okay, we only in a couple days. Now, what's going to be important? You're either going to go left or you're going to go right. Now, which one are you going to do? And the story has already been written. I have no idea. Only God knows. But what I can control is what I can control. So for Danielle and each and every one of you out there, you're going to have to start to look at your own situations and say, what is it that I can control? God, what is it that you want me to learn here in this situation, in this moment right here? And even some of you who have hit rock bottom or ready to, headed right to rock bottom. I know that doesn't sound nice, but sometimes we might need to go through these things so we can understand and know better so we can do better. Because I wasn't going to learn my lesson until I hit rock bottom in 2020. Because all leading up to 2020, I was on this whole roller coaster ride. And every time I went down a hill, it went even deeper and deeper into the pit of hell. And some of us get so fixated on heaven and hell and where am I going to heaven and all of this other stuff. Listen, I don't have to worry about heaven and hell and all of those things because listen, I experience hell right here on earth. Some of us are in hell right now, worried about going to hell, but your environment and everything that you have going on is pure hell. Now you need to learn how to get up out of it. That's the key. Understanding and knowing financial literacy is more than half the battle because a lot of us experience these things because our finances are hell. So it shows up in the physical world. Your mental, your spiritual health will be so much better when your financial health is on point, and vice versa. You get that spiritual and you get that mental health together, your physical health and your financial health. It's just all like clockwork. I don't know who I'm speaking to. I'm only speaking from experience. I just learned these things. And through that, I've developed Black Diamond Consultations. And if you are interested in debt free living, and again, I told you I focus on the spiritual, the mental, the physical, and the financial realms when it comes to debt free living. You can head on over to LarenGaines.com and you can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. You can apply to see if you qualify for the coaching sessions. That is my financial coaching program. Again, that is at LarenGaines.com. You may also reach out and you can text me at 609 200 1098. Again, that number is 609 200 1098. Let me know how you feel about tonight's episode. Let me know how you feel about tonight's burning question, which I will go ahead and get into that in a second. You may also DM me on any of my social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok, D Live, Twitch, Daily Motion. I also want to give a very special, wow, Let me take a little drink here. I want to give a very special thank you to people out there on Spotify. Thank y'all for listening. Please go ahead and share that. Deezer, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, Audacity, all of the places where you listen to the 411 podcast, Reading Between the Wines. Thank y'all so much. This whole situation is growing. I want to thank my YouTube family. Thank y'all so much. Now let's get into this burning question for reflection. If peace is the goal, why are you relying on panic-driven solutions instead of preparation? So if peace is your end goal, think of your situation. This is a rhetorical question. If peace is your end goal, and maybe you may not have peace right now. I spoke about hell on earth. Some of us are in hell. We're experiencing hell because of the situation and the decisions that we've made. Can't blame anybody else. The reason why we are at where we are here in our lives right now is because of the things that we have done, the thoughts that we were thinking, the places that we've gone, the people that we entertained, the things that we did not say no to, the lease agreements that we signed, the car loans that we took out, the payday loans that we took out, the jewelry, the cars, the clothes, the things that we bought that we probably shouldn't have been buying, the restaurants that we continue to go to, knowing full well that we should not be swiping it on a credit card. Now your world is complete hell. That relationship that you just needed to get into just because you didn't want to be alone. You didn't want to spend the holidays alone. Here it is January and you're like, money is gone. And now you're next to somebody and sleeping next to somebody you don't even like. Why? You signed that lease agreement with that person because let's put our money together and we can get this bigger situation. And now you got this bigger situation. Either the person left you, because sometimes that happens after you sign a lease agreement and you're stuck with the lease, or you're sitting here shacking up, might even be married to somebody that you don't even love and you don't even like. Why? And now I'm just going to sit in this situation and I'm just going to be in this situation to keep up with the Joneses, to show face out in the streets so that people can think something about you, thinking that people are going to feel something about you. Now, if peace was the end goal, then why are you relying on these panic-driven solutions instead of preparation? I just got to put it out there. A credit card is not preparation, especially if you don't know how to use it. If you know how to use a credit card properly, it could work in your favor. But if you don't know how to use a credit card properly and you're in debt, that is not preparation. You're setting yourself up for failure, setting yourself up for disaster. Your mental health, especially when it comes to debt-free living, the mental aspect does not come from ignoring reality. You have to look in that mirror and understand and know who you are and what is going on in your situation, and look around in your environment and ask yourself, did I sign up for this? Is this what I want? So this is how life is going to be for me. And if you're cool with it, you're going to be able to sleep good at night. You're going to be able to rest your head and everything's going to be okay. If you're not, something's going to be tapping you on the shoulder. Something's going to be whispering in your ear. That small voice is going to let you know, this ain't cool. When you can't sleep at night, pay attention. LarryGaines.com. If you're interested in debt-free living from the spiritual, mental, physical, financial realm, head on over to LarryGaines.com. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for Mental Monday. Disc 6 Vitality. We have so many great things coming up. You are going to love the episode for Wind Down Wednesday. You are going to love it. So listen, stay tuned. Transformational Tuesday, Wind Down Wednesday, Coaching Sessions Thursday, Financial Friday. I have a live Q&A coaching session coming up. Reach out to me for more information on that for your free complimentary access to the private group. info@laryngaines.com. You may also text me as well, 609-200-1098. On that note, I want to thank each and every one of you out there. Please hit that like button, comment. Let me know. Use your virtual voice. Let me know what you're feeling about the new series, Vitality. Let me know how you feel about tonight's scenario. Let me know how you feel about the burning questions for reflections. And on that note, I will see you when I see you. Thank you so much. Take care, y'all. Have a good night.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the 411 podcast and Reading Between the Wines, where growth is always on the menu, and every pour reveals a little more truth. The conversation doesn't end here. Have something to say? Want to weigh in on tonight's burning questions? Text us anytime at the official 411 podcast and Reading Between the Wines hotline at 609-200-1098. Stay plugged in across all social media platforms at Laryngaines. We're live and in the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, DLive, Twitch, and Dailymotion. Prefer to listen on the go? The audio version is streaming on most major podcast outlets. Until we meet again, take what you've learned, sip slow, speak truth, and remember, transformation starts within. Powered by the Black Diamond Consultations Network.